Have you ever felt it? That almost imperceptible shift, a subtle tremor in the social atmosphere the moment you step across a threshold. It's not something anyone would dare voice, perhaps not even consciously acknowledge, but it's undeniably there. Laughter might not cease abruptly, but its cadence changes, becoming a shade more brittle. Smiles, once easy and expansive, seem to tighten at the edges, as if suddenly reined in. Conversations, moments before flowing with effortless chatter, can falter, dying mid-sentence like a candle caught in an unexpected draft. You haven't uttered a word, haven't made a grand entrance, and certainly haven't been rude or overtly challenging. Yet the air crackles, charged with an unspoken awareness of you. This isn't about arrogance or any deliberate act on your part. It's the palpable hum of an invisible intensity, a psychological resonance that others can neither quite pinpoint nor comfortably ignore. They sense something profound, something that subtly challenges the carefully curated equilibrium of their everyday interactions, and the fear of missing out on understanding why they feel this way or what this says about them begins to stir beneath the surface. You're the one who doesn't just skim the surface of conversation. You pose questions that delve into the heart of matters, listening with an attentiveness that can feel almost unnervingly perceptive. When you speak, it's with a considered purpose, each word carrying weight. And then there's your gaze. When you truly look at someone, meeting their eyes, there's a flicker, a momentary hesitation before they often look away, as if the connection is too direct, too revealing. You've likely heard the labels whispered or stated outright, too serious, far too intense. You overthink everything. But what if these observations aren't criticisms of a flaw? What if, as the pioneering psychologist HENG proposed, your very being is imbued with a potent, almost electric quality? Not the whimsical, glittery aura of popular fancy, but a profound psychological force, a silent, resonant energy that has the power to challenge, to stir, to unsettle others without you ever needing to raise your voice or make a demand. The truth is, people aren't necessarily recoiling from you, they're recoiling from the disquieting clarity of the reflection you unwittingly offer them, a glimpse into their own unacknowledged insecurities, their carefully guarded fears, the fragile masks they present to the world. And in the face of such raw reflection, many will instinctively withdraw, avoid, perhaps even gossip, shrinking themselves to feel a semblance of safety in your profoundly honest presence. It's not because you are a threat, but because your energy is a beacon of authenticity in a world often accustomed to pretense, and unvarnished honesty, it turns out, can be a deeply unsettling force. HENG, a visionary who dedicated his life to plumbing the depths of the human psyche, wasn't talking about iridescent halos or mystical fields of color when he spoke of the energy surrounding an individual. His concept of an aura was far more grounded in the intricate workings of our inner world, a psychological phenomenon rather than a purely spiritual one. To HENG, your aura isn't woven from ethereal light. It's forged from psychic energy, an intangible yet profoundly palpable force. This isn't the kind of energy you can quantify with scientific instruments, but it's undeniably the kind you can feel, an ambient quality that emanates from you, shaped by the complex interplay of your thoughts, the full spectrum of your emotions, and, most significantly, the vast, often uncharted territory of your unconscious mind. This potent energy field precedes you, announcing your presence long before you utter a single syllable. It's there in the subtle way you carry yourself as you enter a room, in the almost instinctual reactions people have to you, often without a clear understanding of why, and in the distinct vibe that envelops you, even in complete silence. HENG termed this subtle yet powerful influence the unconscious transmission of the self, and he believed it originates from the very parts of your being that most people tend to ignore, suppress, or deny. Your shadow aspects, your hidden pain, your unadulterated truth. The more you courageously confront and integrate these concealed facets of your personality, the more your intrinsic energy transforms. You begin to exude a different kind of presence, one that isn't sculpted by societal expectations or the fleeting pursuit of shallow approval, but rather is rooted in profound self-awareness, authentic depth, and a powerful inner alignment. And people, whether they can articulate it or not, feel this. They sense an undeniable difference in you. It's subtly communicated in the way your eyes hold a universe of emotion, in the profound calmness of your silence, and in the quiet, unwavering intensity of your gaze. HENG theorized that this type of potent aura could unconsciously trigger others, not because you are intentionally doing anything wrong or provocative, but because your authentic energy acts as an unintentional spotlight, exposing the insecurities, fears, and false selves that they have dedicated their lives to meticulously hiding. This, he suggested, is often why people might maintain a noticeable distance, why they might misjudge your intentions, or why they might feel an inexplicable sense of intimidation in your company. Even if you are gentle in demeanor and kind in your words, your aura, the resonant energy of your genuine self, is speaking directly to their unconscious, and not everyone is prepared or willing to engage in that profound internal conversation. Grasping this fundamental idea is pivotal to understanding the core of HENG's teachings, that we are not merely minds encased in bodies. We are dynamic fields of psychic influence, living symbols walking among others, acting as unwitting mirrors. And the more undeniably honest you become with yourself, the more intensely your aura resonates and is perceived by those around you. One of the most common refrains you might hear is that you are too intense, a label often applied even when you are simply being straightforward and honest. You tend to speak from a place of considerable depth, not with the intention to impress or dominate the conversation, but driven by a genuine desire to connect on a meaningful level. Yet somehow, your words frequently seem to land with a force that others find overwhelming. You articulate the thoughts others shy away from. You name the uncomfortable truths that people diligently keep hidden, and you bring a stark clarity into spaces that have long been built upon illusion. Unsurprisingly, this makes people deeply uncomfortable. They might tell you that you're too serious, just too much, or too deep for your own good. But what they are often truly, albeit silently, communicating is, you make me feel things I am not prepared to feel. You make me confront aspects of reality I would rather ignore. HENG held the belief that certain individuals carry an energy that has the profound effect of awakening the unconscious in those around them. This energy doesn't just skim the surface. It compels others to confront the unvarnished truth about themselves, about the nature of life, and about the carefully constructed identities they present to the world. So when you speak, it's never just a collection of words. It's a transmission of energy, a palpable presence, an undeniable depth. And for individuals who predominantly reside on the superficial planes of existence, this depth can feel like an imminent threat, a disruption to their carefully maintained comfort. Your intensity, therefore, is not a manifestation of aggression, nor is it born from arrogance. It is the raw, unadulterated power of emotional honesty. And in a world where many have become masters of pretense, very few people possess the capacity to hold that kind of unfiltered truth without instinctively flinching or retreating. You recognize it almost instantaneously, that familiar, almost physical sensation of depletion when immersed in the shallow, scripted energy of surface-level conversations. The predictable inquiries about the weather, the perfunctory questions about your occupation, the fleeting discussions about the latest television show. It's not that you are inherently rude or antisocial. You make a concerted effort to engage. You nod, you smile, you offer the expected responses. But deep within, a fundamental part of your being resists, feeling a profound sense of dissonance. HENG posited that individuals who cultivate a strong, conscious connection to their own unconscious depths often feel an almost visceral repulsion towards inauthenticity in all its forms. And small talk, more often than not, serves as a carefully constructed shield, a social lubricant designed to prevent genuine connection rather than foster it. Consequently, when you find yourself in these superficial exchanges, your aura begins to send out a distinctly different signal, a subtle yet persistent broadcast that says, "This isn't real. Let's move beyond this. Let's talk about something that truly matters." This undercurrent of authentic energy, however, disrupts the established social script. It subtly fractures the illusion of effortless, shallow engagement. And people, even if they cannot consciously articulate what is happening, sense this disruption. They might perceive you as standoffish, perhaps even cold or antisocial, because your very presence challenges the comfortable norm of superficiality. The underlying truth, however, is that your soul is starved for genuine connection, for realness, and your aura, in its unwavering honesty, makes that profound hunger undeniably visible to those around you, whether they are prepared to acknowledge it or not. It's a recurring, almost uncanny pattern in your life. Strangers, with little to no preamble, will begin to unburden themselves to you, sharing intimate details of their life stories, their deepest sorrows, and their most pressing anxieties. Friends, too, invariably turn to you in their moments of crisis, when they feel themselves breaking down, seeking solace in your presence. More times than you can probably recall, you've been unofficially cast in the role of a therapist, a confidant, a safe harbor for the emotional tempests of others, even though you never actively solicited such a role or advertised any particular expertise. This phenomenon is far from a mere coincidence. HENG believed that certain individuals, through their inner development, unconsciously embody what he termed the archetype of the healer, regardless of whether their chosen profession aligns with healing or counseling. Your aura in these instances radiates a profound sense of depth, an unwavering stillness, and an almost palpable emotional safety. People instinctively feel, on a level that often bypasses conscious thought, that they can open up to you, that they can be vulnerable with you, even if they have only just met you or know you superficially. Yet, herein lies a poignant paradox. While you serve as a repository for the emotional outpourings of so many, you rarely, if ever, feel truly seen or reciprocated in return. You listen with profound empathy. You hold space with unwavering patience. You absorb the pain and confusion of others, but it is a rare occasion when someone genuinely inquires about your own well-being, your own struggles, your own inner world. This creates a unique and often perplexing form of loneliness, a state where you are constantly surrounded by the raw, unfiltered emotions of others, yet simultaneously starving for a genuine reciprocal connection, a space where your own heart can be heard and understood. Your aura, while undeniably magnetic for those who are hurting and in need of understanding, can also, paradoxically, intimidate or deter those who are deeply afraid of confronting their own inner darkness, their own unacknowledged wounds. They sense the depth in you, and while some are drawn to it for healing, others may shy away, fearing what it might reveal within themselves. You've experienced it countless times. You walk into a room, a meeting, or a social gathering, and you can almost tangibly feel the atmosphere shift. People's postures subtly change. Their glances meet yours for a fleeting moment before quickly darting away. Sometimes their voices become softer, their demeanor more reserved, almost as if they are recalibrating their behavior in response to your mere presence. It's a subtle but unmistakable phenomenon. On occasion, individuals might seem to actively avoid you altogether, creating a noticeable distance. At other times, you might catch them staring, not in an engaging way, but with a perplexed or scrutinizing expression, as if they are trying to decipher something about you. Yet they offer no words, no bridge for connection. HENG taught that when you have consciously worked to integrate the disparate parts of yourself, especially those aspects that others tend to deny or suppress within their own psyches, the shadow, as he termed it, you unconsciously become a living mirror for what they have disowned. In such a dynamic, your eye contact transcends a simple social gesture. It evolves into a psychic encounter, a moment of profound unspoken recognition. They are not just seeing you in those moments. They are, however, fleetingly and uncomfortably seeing aspects of themselves reflected back through your gaze. And if they are not prepared for that level of self-reflection, if they are not ready to confront the truths you unwittingly illuminate, their instinct is to flinch, to retreat, to label you as intimidating or intense, even when your demeanor is perfectly kind and unassuming. Your presence, by its very nature, demands a certain honesty, not because you explicitly ask for it, but because the authentic energy of your aura speaks a language that bypasses polite social fiction, communicating directly to their deeper selves long before your words ever do. Imagine this scenario, one you've likely encountered more than once. You are simply present, perhaps sitting quietly, observing your surroundings, saying nothing and doing nothing out of the ordinary. Yet, seemingly out of nowhere, someone in your vicinity reacts with unexpected intensity. They might become inexplicably defensive, visibly irritated, or adopt a strangely cold and distant demeanor, leaving you utterly bewildered, silently asking yourself, "What on earth did I do?" HENG believed that when an individual carries a potent, integrated energy, an energy born from deep self-awareness and the courageous integration of their whole self, it can profoundly disturb the unconscious equilibrium of those around them. This is particularly true for individuals who are actively hiding from or are in denial of significant parts of their own personalities. Your mere presence in these instances acts like an uninvited mirror. People unconsciously see aspects of themselves reflected in you, aspects they would rather not acknowledge, their deeply buried insecurities, their unexpressed shame, their simmering envy, or their unfulfilled potentials. You don't even have to speak a single word. Your energy itself does the talking, creating ripples in their inner world. This is the silent, often misunderstood power of a developed and authentic aura. You don't need to consciously command attention or assert dominance because your very existence, your state of being, subtly challenges others to confront the reality of who they truly are beneath the surface-level presentations. And for many people, it must be said, the reflection they glimpse in that moment is not one they particularly like or are prepared to embrace. From a very early age, perhaps, you've possessed an almost innate inability to tolerate masks, the carefully constructed fake personas that people so often adopt in social settings. The forced, insincere laughter, the shallow pronouncements, the endless, exhausting need to perform and project an idealized image. You see through it almost instantly. You feel the discordance in your gut, a visceral reaction that often precedes any conscious analysis by your mind. This acute sensitivity isn't born from a place of judgment or superiority. Rather, it's a highly attuned form of perception. HENG proposed that when someone has diligently engaged in the work of integrating their shadow, those darker, often rejected traits and impulses that reside within everyone, they begin to develop what he described as psychological wholeness. This state of inner integration gifts them with an almost uncanny ability to sense fragmentation, inauthenticity, and pretense in others. So, when you find yourself in the company of someone who is posturing, someone who is laboring to pretend to be something or someone they are fundamentally not, your aura, your very energy field, sends out a subtle, unspoken signal. Drop the act. I see the real you, the one beneath the layers. Most people deeply invested in their constructed identities are not ready for this level of unmasking. They might become noticeably nervous in your presence, or exhibit an overly defensive posture, or they might simply categorize you as too intense or judgmental and consciously keep their distance. It's not because you actively expose them or call them out, but because the honest resonance of your energy simply doesn't allow their illusion to breathe comfortably. It challenges the very foundation of their pretense. You have a way of asking questions that others meticulously avoid, of challenging long-held assumptions that have gone unquestioned, of refusing to accept something as normal or right simply because it is commonplace. And as a direct consequence of this innate tendency, people often find themselves second-guessing their own beliefs, statements, and actions when they are around you. They might become flustered, stumbling over their words. They may suddenly doubt the validity of what they are saying, even if moments before they were entirely confident. You might observe them attempting to justify opinions or behaviors that, in other contexts, they wouldn't feel the need to defend at all. This effect you have isn't a result of arrogance on your part, nor is it a calculated manipulative tactic. Instead, it's the almost palpable psychic weight of your clarity, the unassuming power of your authentic self-awareness. Yi spoke of how a person who embodies deep, lived self-awareness inherently becomes a living contradiction to the often unexamined consensus of the collective. Your clarity has a way of unintentionally exposing the confusion in others. Your inner calm can, without a word, reveal the underlying anxiety they might be experiencing. Your quiet self-trust subtly highlights the self-doubt that may plague them beneath their confident facade. You don't need to engage in arguments. You don't feel a compulsion to prove anything to anyone. Simply being authentically who you are is often enough to destabilize the false certainty and unearned confidence that many people cling to. And in a world that is frequently addicted to ego validation and the comfort of unquestioned norms, this quality makes you, however quietly and unintentionally, somewhat dangerous to the status quo. It's a bewildering pattern. People will open up to you, sharing their deepest secrets, their vulnerabilities, their hidden pains. They might tell you that you understand them in a way no one else ever has. For a fleeting, precious moment, it feels as though a genuine, profound connection has been forged. And then, just as suddenly, they vanish. They stop returning texts or calls. They become distant, evasive, creating an emotional chasm where intimacy once blossomed. You're left standing there, confused and often hurt, wondering what on earth just happened, what you might have said or done to cause such an abrupt shift. This painful emotional whiplash is rarely, if ever, your fault. Instead, it is often the shadow, their own unacknowledged self, at work. Yi taught that when someone feels truly seen, not just superficially flattered or acknowledged, but understood at their very core, including the parts they try to hide, it can awaken aspects of themselves they have spent years, perhaps even a lifetime, diligently avoiding. Your aura, your authentic presence, didn't hurt them, it revealed them to themselves. And for someone who is not yet ready to face their own pain, their past trauma, or the deeper, sometimes uncomfortable truths of their being, that sudden self-revelation can feel utterly terrifying. So they pull away, not because you committed some transgression, not because you did anything wrong, but because you, in your authenticity, unknowingly unlocked a door within them, a door they were not yet prepared or courageous enough to walk through. You didn't break the connection. You inadvertently made it too real, too profound for them to handle at that point in their journey. You walk into a room, a meeting, or any situation where established power dynamics are at play, and almost imperceptibly, yet undeniably, something shifts. Perhaps your boss, who is usually assertive and confident, suddenly becomes a little more defensive, a little less sure. That individual who typically dominates conversations with their loud pronouncements might quiet down, their usual bravado dimming. People who are accustomed to controlling the narrative, to steering the flow of discussion, might find themselves stumbling over their words, their authority subtly undermined. You haven't done anything overt, haven't challenged anyone directly, haven't sought to take control. But your energy, your very presence, communicates a quiet, unshakable message. I am not easily controlled. I am not swayed by superficial authority. Yi believed that those individuals who have successfully integrated their inner power, who have connected with and embodied what he might describe as their inner king or queen archetype, radiate a profound and quiet sovereignty. This isn't an energy that screams for attention or postures for dominance. It simply is. And that kind of authentic, self-contained presence inherently threatens anyone whose identity and sense of self are built upon external dominance, hierarchical control, or the ability to intimidate others. You might notice a distinct pattern. People in positions of authority either develop a deep respect for you, recognizing a kindred strength, or they harbor a subtle, sometimes not so subtle resentment. This is because, without uttering a single word, your aura communicates a powerful truth. You do not hold ultimate power over me, and for those who rely on fear, status, or the manipulation of others to maintain their sense of control, that unspoken message is perhaps the most unsettling and challenging thing they could ever encounter. It's a deeply painful and confusing experience. You enter someone's life with genuine kindness, with transparent honesty, with no hidden agenda or manipulative intent. You offer your authentic self. Yet, somehow, despite your best intentions, you find yourself cast as the villain in their personal narrative. They might accuse you of being arrogant when you are simply self-assured, cold when you are merely introspective, too intense when you are passionate, or too emotional when you are simply expressing genuine feeling. They can twist your comfortable silence into an act of judgment, your healthy self-respect into an inflated ego, your need for solitude and reflection into a personal rejection of them. It's crucial to understand that this bewildering dynamic is rarely, if ever, truly about you. It is, more often than not, about the psychological mechanism of projection, a concept HENG emphasized as one of the most potent and often dangerous blind spots in human relationships. When people are unwilling or unable to confront their own flaws, their own insecurities, their own shadow aspects, they unconsciously project these undesirable traits onto others. And individuals with strong, developed auras, those who are deeply and spiritually attuned, often become the perfect, unwitting screens for these projections. This is because your very presence, your authenticity, tends to reflect back to them precisely what they are trying so desperately to hide from themselves. You didn't actually become the villain. You simply refused to play the victim in their pre-scripted drama or conform to their unstated expectations, and that refusal fundamentally disrupted their preferred narrative, forcing them to find a new antagonist. It happens in the most mundane of places, at the most unexpected of times. In the checkout line at the grocery store, in the anonymous bustle of an airport terminal, in the quiet stillness of a waiting room. A complete stranger will strike up a conversation with you, and it won't be the usual superficial pleasantries. Instead, they will begin to speak deeply, sometimes confessing something incredibly personal, sharing a vulnerability they might not even share with close friends. Often, they will preface or conclude their revelation with a phrase like, "I don't know why I'm telling you this," or "I've never told anyone that before." There's no gradual build-up of small talk, just a sudden plunge into raw, unfiltered emotion, as if they have been unconsciously waiting for someone exactly like you to appear, someone to whom they could finally unburden their soul. HENG believed that certain individuals carry what he described as a numinous energy. This isn't mere charisma, nor is it superficial charm. It's something far deeper, akin to the soul's intrinsic gravity. People sense this quality in you, even if they can't articulate it. They don't consciously understand what they're feeling, but they experience a profound sense of safety, of being truly seen and accepted, and they feel an inexplicable pull towards something ancient, something sacred, something profoundly wise that you seem to embody. Your aura in these moments operates like a quiet, unassuming spiritual lighthouse. Even if you don't consider yourself religious, even if you're not actively seeking to guide or heal anyone, your soul radiates a certain quality, and others, especially those who are lost, hurting, or earnestly seeking deeper meaning, will feel it like a silent, irresistible calling, a beacon in their personal darkness. You possess an almost uncanny ability to feel the energetic pulse of a room the moment you enter it. You step across the threshold, and within mere seconds, often before a single word has been spoken, you know what's off, what's unsaid, what's simmering beneath the surface. You can feel the subtle tension in the air, sense the hidden resentments or unspoken conflicts, and pick up on the carefully constructed masks everyone is wearing. To others, who may be oblivious to these subtle energetic cues, it might seem as though you possess a kind of sixth sense, an almost supernatural intuition. But in truth, this is more accurately described as a highly developed psychic attunement, an intuitive capacity honed through inner work and self-awareness. HENG described this phenomenon as a form of psychological intuition, the unconscious intelligence that operates far beneath the radar of logic and language, perceiving realities that are not immediately apparent to the rational mind. You don't necessarily need lengthy explanations or overt displays to understand a situation. You feel truth, you sense deception, you perceive the authentic emotional landscape beneath the social veneer. You don't just observe energy from a detached perspective. On some level, you absorb it, resonating with the emotional frequencies around you. This, of course, is the profound double-edged sword of heightened spiritual or psychic sensitivity. It grants you access to deeper, richer dimensions of human experience, allowing for profound empathy and understanding. However, it also makes you incredibly vulnerable to energetic overwhelm, to becoming saturated by the emotional states of others. Your aura, in this sense, is like a finely tuned antenna, constantly picking up signals that others may not even be aware they are sending. And unless you cultivate strong energetic boundaries and practices for clearing, you can easily end up carrying the weight of emotions that were never yours to begin with. There's a particular kind of loneliness that has likely accompanied you for much of your life, a feeling that's difficult to articulate. It's not necessarily the loneliness that comes from a lack of company, but rather the more profound loneliness of feeling fundamentally different on a soul level, as if you're observing the world through a slightly different lens. Since childhood, you may have felt like an outsider, an observer, even when surrounded by friends, even within the intimate circle of your own family. It's as if you were born with ancient eyes, possessing an innate wisdom or perspective that struggles to reconcile itself with a world that often seems to value only the surface, the immediate, the material. HENG believed that certain individuals are born with or develop a strong calling from the self, that deep inner guiding intelligence, a powerful internal voice pulling them inexorably toward growth, wholeness, and profound transformation. These individuals, he noted, often live at the metaphorical edges of society. They are the ones who question what others readily accept without a second thought. They carry a kind of wisdom that can feel otherworldly, ancient, and sometimes out of sync with the prevailing cultural norms. Your aura inevitably reflects this profound inner orientation. It carries a signature of depth, a hint of mystery, an echo of timeless understanding. It stirs something ancient, something deep and often unacknowledged in the people who encounter you. Some individuals will be deeply inspired by this quality, drawn to the wisdom and authenticity they sense in you. Others, however, will be subtly or even overtly terrified by it, unsettled by the unfamiliar depth it represents. But very few, if any, will be able to completely ignore it. Because whether they consciously realize it or not, when they are in your presence, they are encountering someone who doesn't quite belong to the conventional fabric of this world, but who, perhaps, was sent here with the subtle yet powerful potential to help change it. You've seen it play out time and time again. You enter a space, a meeting, a social gathering, even a casual encounter, and almost immediately you sense a shift. People become more guarded. Their body language subtly closes off. They might seem distant or awkward, and sometimes inexplicably, they can even become mildly aggressive or dismissive. And you're left standing there, replaying the interaction in your mind, wondering what you could have possibly said or done to elicit such a response. You didn't utter an offensive word. You weren't attempting to dominate the room or assert any kind of superiority. You were quite simply being yourself. But that, in many instances, is precisely the problem, because when your aura carries the undeniable resonance of authenticity, of deep self-awareness, and of hard-won inner depth, it inadvertently challenges people. It subtly yet powerfully confronts the parts of themselves they have diligently buried, denied, or refused to acknowledge. HENG dedicated much of his work to understanding the shadow, that hidden, often disowned side of our personality, filled with the traits, impulses, and potentials we've repressed or deemed unacceptable. Most people, he observed, spend the vast majority of their lives unconsciously avoiding any direct confrontation with their shadow. But when someone with an integrated, authentic aura walks into the room, the shadow aspects in others can be instantly and often uncomfortably triggered. Your presence, without any conscious intent on your part, silently communicates a profound question. I've faced myself in all my complexities. Have you? And for those who haven't yet embarked on that courageous inner journey, or who are actively resisting it, this unspoken inquiry can feel deeply, primally terrifying. The core psychological journey, as envisioned by HENG, was the path of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your truest, most complete and whole self by courageously integrating both the light and the shadow aspects of your being. However, as he astutely observed, most people never fully embark on this transformative journey. And why is that? Primarily because the ego, our carefully constructed self-image, the persona we present to the world, fiercely resists any process that threatens its perceived stability and control. The ego, by its very nature, doesn't crave uncomfortable truth. It craves comfort, predictability, and validation. It desperately wants to believe, I'm a good person. I'm normal, just like everyone else. I'm fine just the way I am, and I don't need to change. Consequently, anyone or anything that forces the ego to question these fundamental self-protective assumptions is immediately perceived as a threat. And that, dear reader, is often where you come in. You are not threatening because you are aggressive or malevolent. You are threatening because your very state of being suggests a level of evolution, of inner work, that they have not yet undertaken. Your aura reflects someone who is actively in process, someone who has dared to question, deconstruct, and rebuild themselves from the inside out. That vibrant, authentic energy inevitably exposes, by contrast, everyone still clinging desperately to their illusions, their unexamined beliefs, and their comfortable self-deceptions. And instead of looking at you and thinking, I want to grow like that, I want that kind of depth and authenticity for myself, many will instinctively choose the path of deflection, uttering the all-too-common dismissal, you're just too much. We live in a society that, by and large, rewards conformity and celebrates surface-level behavior. Being loud and opinionated, as long as the opinions align with the majority, being perpetually agreeable or diligently following the latest trends, these are often the traits that make people feel comfortable and accepted within the social fabric. But when someone walks into this carefully curated environment, exuding an aura of silence, profound stillness, and undeniable soul depth, they inadvertently break the unspoken social contract. People suddenly don't know how to categorize you. You don't fit neatly into their pre-established boxes. You don't seem to play the usual social games. You don't appear to be desperately seeking validation or approval, and your very presence seems to pose an implicit, unsettling question. Is this all there is? What else is possible beyond these superficial interactions? This creates what psychologists call emotional dissonance, that palpable discomfort that arises when an individual is forced to confront truths or possibilities they have long ignored or suppressed. That dissonance, more often than not, quickly morphs into repulsion, judgment, or dismissal. Because frankly, it's far easier for many to label someone as weird, arrogant, or unapproachable than it is to admit, even to themselves, perhaps they are living with a level of clarity, authenticity, or inner peace that I haven't yet found, and that makes me uncomfortable. You, in essence, become a mirror, and mirrors, especially those that reflect uncomfortable truths, aren't always a welcome sight. The spiritual depth of your aura has the unavoidable effect of reflecting people back to themselves, with all their beauty and all their unacknowledged flaws. To those who are open, receptive, and on their own path of growth, this reflection feels magnetic, inspiring. They are drawn to your insight, your calmness, your authentic presence. But to those who are fragmented, in denial, or deeply insecure, it feels invasive, almost violating. They don't want to be seen that clearly. They don't want to feel the sharp sting of their own confusion, insecurity, or denial. And so they retreat, they attack, they reject, not because you are wrong or flawed or too much, but simply because you are profoundly, uncomfortably real. Your aura, this powerful emanation of your inner work and authentic self, is undeniably a gift. But it's a gift that often comes hand in hand with a certain kind of solitude. HENG once reflected on the nature of becoming oneself, suggesting something akin to The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But he would also have acknowledged that this journey of becoming who you truly are is rarely a path filled with constant applause, adulation, or easy acceptance. More often, it's a path that demands immense courage, unflinching self-confrontation, and frequently, periods of deep, sometimes painful, loneliness. Your aura carries the discernible weight, the energetic signature of your dedicated inner work. This isn't about being better than anyone else, a notion that stems from ego, not from true self-awareness. It's about striving to be more whole, more integrated, more authentically yourself. And wholeness, in a world that often encourages fragmentation and superficiality, will always be a rare commodity. It will often be misunderstood. It will, almost inevitably, scare those who haven't yet begun their own journey toward inner integration, or those who have actively chosen to avoid it. But here lies a profound truth. The more people may pull away from the discomfort your authenticity stirs within them, the closer you are actually moving toward your true self, toward that core of your being. And the more deeply aligned you become with that authentic self, the more potent and clear the light you carry into a world that is often shrouded in darkness becomes, even if that light, in its brilliance, momentarily blinds some eyes. If you have resonated with these descriptions, if these experiences echo your own journey through the world, there's something profoundly important you need to hear, to absorb into the very marrow of your being. You are not broken. You are not, by any objective measure, too much. And you are most certainly not the problem. You are quite simply rare. You feel the subtle energies and unexpressed emotions that most people habitually ignore. You see the underlying patterns and hidden dynamics that most remain blind to. You ask the penetrating questions that make others uncomfortable, not because you are intentionally trying to stir trouble or provoke, but because your very soul is built for truth, wired for authenticity, and that unwavering commitment to truth inevitably comes at a price, in a world often content with illusion. Yi believed that walking the challenging path toward wholeness, the arduous journey of individuation, is not a pilgrimage the masses are readily willing to undertake. It is, by its very nature, a lonely path at times. It can be disorienting, making you question your own sanity when your perceptions differ so vastly from those around you, and it often means navigating through life feeling profoundly misunderstood, even by those you love. But herein lies the beautiful, empowering paradox. The very thing that sometimes isolates you, the very quality that makes you feel different, is precisely what proves your depth, your evolution, your courage. The acute discomfort you feel in shallow, meaningless conversations, the almost visceral urge to detach from toxic dynamics and inauthentic people, the recurring pain of being perceived as too intense, too quiet, or too deep. These are not indicators of flaws or deficiencies within you. They are, in fact, undeniable signs that you are evolving, that your consciousness is expanding. Because when your aura, the energetic field of your being, expands with self-awareness and authenticity, the conventional world, with its limitations and superficialities, naturally begins to feel smaller, more constricting. Most people are born into a prefabricated mold, told who to be, how to act, and what to feel by their families, their cultures, and their societies. But your soul, it seems, was wired differently from the outset. You were never meant to passively fit in. You were meant to awaken. And with genuine awakening inevitably comes resistance, not just from the broader society that often fears what it doesn't understand, but sometimes even from those closest to you. This isn't necessarily because they are bad people, but because your authentic energy, your very presence, serves as an unintentional reminder of the inner work they themselves have avoided, the potential they have not yet dared to embrace. You become an unrequested mirror, reflecting possibilities they might not be ready to walk toward. But still, you shine. Perhaps Yi might have mused in his own way that a period of solitude or misunderstanding is not a punishment, but an opportunity for deeper communion with the self, a sacred space for preparation. Maybe your isolation isn't a sign of your inadequacy, but rather a testament to your capacity for deeper wisdom, for profound spiritual strength, for the kind of unshakable clarity that most people, caught in the currents of conformity, may never reach in an entire lifetime. Because when your aura scares people, it's often because it speaks a silent, powerful language that their soul dimly recognizes and yearns for, even if their conscious mind, conditioned by fear and societal norms, isn't yet ready to understand or embrace it. So, do not shrink. Do not dim your light to make others more comfortable. Do not apologize for your sensitivity, your profound insight, or the intensity of your inner fire. You are not here on this earth to be merely palatable or easily digestible for the masses. You are here to be powerful, to be authentic, to be a force for truth and evolution. And while some may flinch or retreat in your presence, the ones who are truly meant for your journey, the souls who resonate with your depth, will feel seen, safe, and undeniably stronger when you walk into the room. Because your aura is not just a passive field of energy, it's an active signal, a clarion call to truth, a living reminder of what becomes possible when someone dares to be fully, unapologetically, magnificently alive. So, the next time they call you too much, you can smile with the quiet knowing of your own heart and remember with unshakable certainty, you are not too much. You are just beautifully, undeniably, and powerfully rare. So, you've navigated the labyrinth of self-doubt, pieced together the puzzling reactions of others, and arrived at a profound understanding. Your energy, your very essence, carries a rare and potent signature. The world may not always greet this with open arms, its surface often roiled by the depths you reflect. There's an undeniable pull, a FOMO almost, in wanting to fully grasp what this means for your journey forward, not just to understand why you are this way, but how to live in alignment with this truth without being diminished by the friction it can create. This isn't about cultivating an imposing presence or seeking to overwhelm. It's about becoming a conscious steward of the inner light that shines so distinctly from you, learning to navigate a reactive world with grace, resilience, and unwavering authenticity. The path you walk is not one of intentional provocation, but of inherent revelation. Your presence, imbued with the insights gleaned from your own inner work and your connection to what HENG might call the deeper strata of the psyche, naturally acts as a catalyst. To some, this catalytic effect is a welcome rain on parched earth, inspiring growth and introspection. To others, it can feel like an uncomfortable spotlight, exposing vulnerabilities they are not yet ready to face. The key then lies not in dimming your light to avoid discomforting others, for that would be a betrayal of your own soul's imperative, but in cultivating a compassionate understanding of these dynamics. Recognize that the ripples you create are often less about you and more about the inner landscapes of those you encounter. Their reactions, be they admiration, fear, avoidance, or projection, are signposts indicating their own readiness, their own battles, their own journey towards or away from their authentic selves. This awareness allows you to detach from the need for universal approval, freeing you to simply be. Living authentically with such an aura requires cultivating strong, yet flexible, energetic boundaries. Imagine your energy field not as a rigid wall, but as a vibrant, semi-permeable membrane, one that allows for genuine connection and empathy, but also filters out negativity, misplaced projections, and energetic drains. This involves conscious practices, learning to ground your energy, to cleanse your field after overwhelming interactions, and to discern whose emotions are truly yours and whose you may have inadvertently absorbed. It means choosing your company wisely, gravitating towards those who nourish your spirit and celebrate your depth, rather than those who seek to diminish or misunderstand it. It also means mastering the art of energetic diplomacy, knowing when to engage deeply and when a respectful, more reserved presence is appropriate, not to hide your truth, but to honor the energetic capacity of the situation and those within it. Furthermore, embrace the solitude that can sometimes accompany this path not as a sentence, but as a sanctuary. HENG in his explorations of the inner world, would have recognized the profound value of introspection and the deep wellspring of wisdom that can be accessed when one is unafraid to be alone with the self. These periods of quietude are not indicative of your being unwanted, but are often necessary for integration, for recharging your luminous spirit, and for hearing the subtle whispers of your own soul's guidance without the distorting noise of the external world. It is in these spaces that your unique gifts can be further honed, your understanding deepened, and your capacity to hold your powerful presence with both strength and gentleness can be fortified. Your journey is not about conforming to a world that often fears depth, but about courageously embodying your truth, knowing that your authentic light, even when it unsettles, also has the profound capacity to awaken, to heal, and to inspire others to seek their own. This stewardship is your sacred responsibility and your most profound gift to a world in desperate need of genuine illumination.